Let's continue with the same example. Now, in the last lecture, we have seen how to create a class and how to create instance and call these methods. Let me add more functionality here. So, I'll add three functions. The first function will find the total marks obtained by the student. Second, I'll find the average. And third, I'll find the grade. So, here I'll create a function, or you can call it method, total marks. So I'll assume there are three subjects. Subject 1, subject 2 and subject 3. You can specify name of the subject also. So this method will find the total marks. Whenever we pass the marks, it will add and return the total marks. So let's create a variable total, and here I'll write subject 1 plus subject 2 plus subject 3. Now I'll not print here because I want this total marks in another method. So what I can do, I can return here. Just return this total. When do we return the value? We return the value when this value is going to use in another function. If I don't have to use it, I have to just print it, we can write print statement here. But in real world applications, we don't print, we use it. Maybe you want to, use for processing or it can help in some other decision making, or maybe in GUI part. So let's return the value here. Now, second method I'll use to find the average. Now, to find the average, what we need? We need marks. So let's pass the marks here. And then let's call it AVG average, and here we have a marks divided by number of subjects 3. Here also I'll not print here, I'll return this average so that we can use it. Now I'll create third method to find the grade. Now to find the grade we need average, which we already calculated here, so we can pass that average. Let me pass it. First I'll just show you how these two methods work. To call this we have to pass 3 subjects marks, and this method will return the total marks. I'll remove this part. Okay. Now here I'll call this total marks, and I'll pass the total marks of the 3 subject marks. Okay. Because this method returns the value total marks, here you can see, so we must store it. So I'll use here variable. You can use any variable name here. Let me call here total. Here also total and here also total. It's not like we don't have to use the same variable here. It can be different. We can use here any variable name. It's easy to understand here. I'm using the same variable here. So total. Now this method, when you call, we pass these values 78, 89 and 90, and it will add that, return that value. Now I'll store here. Now I'll call another method, that is average. To find average we must pass the total marks, because total marks we already calculated and that is stored in this total variable. We can pass that variable here, total. Again, this method also returns the average. You can see here it will return the average. We must store in a variable. So I'll call it AVG here. Now it is stored. Again, this can be any variable name. This time I'll use another variable. So let's say average marks. So why we store it? So that we can use it another method, because here to find a grade we have to pass average marks. Now I'll call s1 dot this method grade, and I'll pass here average marks. Right, now let's complete this average marks. If this average is more than 80, I can print here, let's say A, grade A. Else if this average is more than 60, I can print B. You can write that logic, you can write yourself, you can write anything here, it's up to you. Average more than 40, I'll print C, and else student is fail. Now here in this method will not return anything, because I'm just printing here the grade, right? Because this grade I am not going to use in another method. If I have to use this grade, then we must return from here. Okay. But in this example I'm not using it, I'm just printing, so I don't have to return here. But these two functions, you can see these two methods, this total marks I'm using in another method. Remember here I cannot directly access here total, because this is a local scope here. This variable is within this scope. Another reason maybe that total marks can be used in another function which is not defined in this class, or we can use in another way. So we must return this total marks. Similarly total, this average. Now let's go back here, and before this let's print this detail, and I'll print here total marks, because in the method there is no method to print these total marks and average. It returns here and the values are here, this total and average marks, so I can print here only. So first I'll print the details, name, roll number and standard, then I'll print total marks, average, so here it is total and the another variable is average marks, and then I'll call this method grade. This will print the grade. Let's run this. So name, roll number, all these details, total marks, average and yay. Okay, so see here again, class student, this is to initialize these properties, because these properties are fixed, like student name, roll number and standard will not change frequently, but now student can appear in exam more than one times, right? So these methods are there. Total marks, we pass these values, return this average, pass the marks which we already calculate here, so we don't have to calculate total marks here. Same thing here, we pass average to find the grade and print the grade here, and create instance of this student class and call this method. So if this student appear in the exam again, I can do this process again. I don't have to create one more instance here. So what I can do, s1 dot total marks and pass the marks, again s1 dot average. Okay, so you can think some other functionality here and add in this class.